Hello EFR 516 students. We're going to work through the example for online EX04. And with that, there's a data set called example online EX04 data, and that's in SPSS. So you can go ahead and open that data set and look at the first problem. It says plot histograms of X1, X2, X3. So we're just going to look at the shape of the data and look what's happening there. So I'm going to come back to the, I'm going to go graph, legacy dialog, histogram. So graph, legacy dialog, histogram. I'll click there, and the variable I'm going to be testing is X1. I'll just do these one at a time. And we're going to display a normal curve on top, so I'm going to click that as well. So then I'll say paste. So when I paste it, I'm going to come back down to the SPSS symbol on the bottom, and I'm going to go to the syntax, and that shows right here the syntax. So then I'm going to go ahead and block that, and then I'm going to hit the green triangle to run it. So that's going to give me a histogram. Okay, and obviously there's some outliers going on in this histogram, right? There's a bunch of smaller data. As you can see, there's 400 observations, but something's going on. So it seems like there's some outliers in this data. So I've been asked to plot a histogram on all three. So I'm going to go back to my syntax, and what I'm going to do is we need to learn how to use syntax a little bit. So I'm just going to copy that syntax down, and as you see, the first one plotted X1. Well, then I'm going to plot X2. I'm going to change that to X2, and then I'm going to change that to X3. So those are my columns in my data set. So I can just go ahead and block all three right now, and I'm going to run that. So that's going to give me my three histograms. And as I can see, I've got some issues with all three of them. So for number one, we're just going to bring these over. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go right mouse. I'm going to go copy special. And then I'm going to deselect this rich text. And then I'm going to click meta file, because that's going to give me some options when I bring it over. So I'll say OK. And now just bring them over and paste them under the assignment. Now they don't have to be this big, so I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to shrink them up. So there's X1, here's X2, plop that in as well. Going to shrink that up. And then I can bring in X3. So I'll go get that last one. It's X3, copy that, bring it over, paste it in. Now once you hit meta file, you're good. You don't have to do it again. So I'm going to shrink that one down. But from the histograms, it's obvious I've got some outlier issues going on in the data. And as we do the last problem, we'll see how we adjust for that. So then I say find the min and the max. So what's going on? What are maybe some of our outliers here? So I want the min and the max. So I'm going to go to the data set, and I'm going to say analyze descriptive statistics, descriptives, and I'm going to bump over my X1 through X3, and I'll go options, and I don't need the mean, the standard deviation. What I need is that min and the max. So I'll say continue, and then I'll paste that. I'll go down here. I'm going to click my SPSS symbol. I'll go to my set text window, and I'm going to go ahead and block that one, and I'm going to run it. So as we can see with the data, X1 has a minimum of minus 421, has a maximum of 999. So why don't you go ahead and bring this table over, and we can see there's some definitely outlier issues that are happening with this data. Now, one thing I didn't ask you to do, so I can just bring that in table for number 2. And notice the 999s. Often when data is missing, it can be coded 999 or 888. But here this minus 421 is an issue. Now, this looks like this is continuous data. So, but one thing I could do as well is I'm going to come up here and do a frequencies on this data. Now, the assignment doesn't ask for that. So I'm going to analyze that frequencies, and I'm going to bring over my X1 through my X3. Now I'm going to get a lot of values coming out with that. I'm pasting it. I'm going to go ahead and block it. I'm going to block this right here. I'm going to run that. Right, we got a lot of observations here, but we can see, we can come down to the bottom of it, for example, and we can look for large values. And here, the 888, right? I've got 2 of those. The 999s, there's 2 of those. So you can very quickly see the frequencies of data, and this can be very helpful as well. Like if you have a survey, obviously you don't have so many options that you would have. But going back to the assignment, okay, so number 2, we brought in the min and the max. And number 3, it says replace the 999s or the 888s with missing cells. So obviously when they coded this, they used 999 to say, hey, there's missing data here, but we don't want to bring this in and calculate the mean, for example, with 999 in there. So here's some code you're going to run. Okay, so it says if x1 equals 999 or x1 equals 888, x1 equals system missing. And this is the comment in the code. This slash star replace 999s with 888s with missing data. So what we're going to do is just grab this. Again, we should feel kind of comfortable with the syntax. Now you don't normally have to memorize this. You're going to just kind of keep this syntax or Google syntax like this. So I'm just going to paste this in, and this is going to be for X1. So I'm just going to head and I'm going to block this, and I'm going to run this with the green arrow. So as we see, it says it executed that. So what we had hoped for is that they removed all the missing values, the 999s and the 888s. So as you see here, when we did the frequencies, we see 888, 999, there's 2 of each. What we're going to do is go ahead and run the frequencies again, and we'd expect those to go away. So I'm going to go to my syntax, right? Here were the frequencies that I ran. I'm just going to block that and run that, and I'll run down to the bottom of that. Oh, they're still there. Okay, so when I ran down to the bottom, it was X3. So we see X1, the 999s and the 888s are gone. So that eliminated that, but I only did it for X1. So I need to go do it for X2 and X3 as well. So here was the code I used. So I'm just going to grab that code. I'm going to copy it. I block it. I'm going to copy it here, and then once more. And then I need to change the X1 to the X2. X2. So it's in here 3 places. X2. X2. So what you're doing is you're coding here. X3. X3. And X3. So now I'm going to run this code for X1, X2, X3. So I'll go ahead and run that. And when I'm looking in here, I don't see any errors. So it ran it for all 3. So if I just rerun this again, these frequencies, when I get to the bottom of X3, you'll notice the 888s and the 999s are gone. Okay, so that worked just fine. So now I'm going to come back to the assignment, and so we remove those, and that's good enough. Just run that. I guess what I'd like to see then is if we look at that's fine. You just ran it. You can bring in the code that you ran for the assignment. So I'm going to go into the my Sentex, and I'm just grabbing this code, and I'm going to bump that code back in there to show that you've done the assignment. Okay, so there's my code I ran. Okay, I'm going to come down to number 4. It says, if you find values that are negative, replace them with 0. So here's some code. If x1 is less than 0, x1 equals 0. Okay, so replace the values. So I'm going to grab this code. I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to paste it into the Sentex window. And knowing what I know before, this code is just for x1. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 copies of it. And now I'm going to change the x1 to x2 in the second line. And in the third line, I'm going to make it an x3. So what this is going to do is go through all my values and remove all the negative values and put a 0 in there. So I'll go ahead and block that, and I'm going to run that. Okay, I don't see any errors here, so it looks like it ran just fine. So I want you to bring that in your assignment, that code. So I'm just going to paste it under the code that was here. Okay, then it says do a final check of the min and max of the data. So we're not expecting any of these 888s or etc. So an advantage of the code by coding, I'm going to come in here to my Sentex window, and I have the min and max code here, right here. Descriptive variables x1 through 3, min and max. So I'm going to block that, and I'm going to run that. Okay, and as we see, there's no negative mins, or zeros are the mins, and there's no really large. There's no 8/8s and 9/9s. So go ahead, bring this table over. And I'll paste that into my assignment. So now this problem doesn't ask for the histograms again, but in your actual assignment, it's going to ask you to reproduce the histograms. And so I'm going to come in there. I'm going to go to my Sentex window again, and then here's the code for my histograms. I'm just going to block that and rerun that. And there are my histograms. So I'll go ahead and bring these over. So again, I'm gonna shrink these down. Here's X2. And in a moment here, I'll talk about the shapes of these distributions. And we'll go ahead and grab X3. Okay, so as you can see here, the distributions are looking pretty good now, where we don't have any extreme outliers. Also, we got rid of our negative values, and this is what we might like. So this is just some preliminary data screening we're doing. Obviously, the coding is very, very powerful to replace things and put things in there. But we see we went from these kind of distributions to here. and then we know we don't have any min and max problems as well. So this ends the assignment. So you go ahead and just why don't you at the end of this assignment you got your syntax, because again syntax is very valuable for you in your work. So I'm just going to grab all my syntax from this project. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it at the end of my assignment, because next time I want to do this, I could just grab it and rerun the syntax and get the same results. Okay, thank you very much.